Yeah, I totally agree. Fantastic series, and I guess now that the Kings are eliminated, I guess I do believe that they had a great season despite losing in the first round. Considering the expectations they had coming in, right? No one, no, I don't think anyone would have thought they would even make the playoffs to begin with, let
Mhm.
alone be a third seed in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
So, what do you think they should do moving forward?
For me, the only real decision that they have to make is probably what to do with Barnes
Yep.
if they want to bring him back and how much they want to pay him. So that's two things. I honestly don't think they need to do much. It's one of those cases where you let your young core just develop,
Yep.
right? Especially for Keegan Murray
Yep.
and
I was gonna
especially for Terence Davis. Like Terence Davis, like what kind of made this series much more competitive towards game 4, 5, and 6 was Terence Davis getting more minutes, being very aggressive offensively and defensively. Because David Mitchell, he was really good on Steph from a defensive standpoint, but he wasn't providing a lot of offense. So once Mike Brown went with Terence Davis and gave him like basically all the minutes that Mitchell was getting, you saw that secondary score off the bench, including Monk, right? Who was able to make shots, but also play fairly decent defense on Steph at times. Emphasis on decent,
Mhm.
right? It wasn't like amazing, but he put up a decently good fight, I would say. Like really. So I think for them it's just about, bringing in one or two decent vets and just letting their young players grow because basically what this team is lacking is just experience and some quality rotation players to kind of round out the edges of this team. But ideally, you want Keegan Murray to become your third scorer or your third star on this team. If he can, do that, if Monk could still stay like a really good six man, if Herder and the rest of their young guys can become and remain quality role players, they have a good future, right? I mean, it's assuming that they stay pat, they'll probably be in the middle of the pack again next year. So I don't think they need to do much, to be quite frank. I think they just gotta let their team grow organically.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I've seen some arguments around, why did they play Terrence Davis on Steph and take away Davion's minutes, but you also hit it right in the head where it's like at least Terrence Davis, though he is not as good defensively, he provides offense. And honestly, considering how well Steph played, I don't think anybody was stopping Steph that night.
Yeah,
To be honest with you, so he was making some wild circus shots that no matter how well you guarded him, the shot was going to go in. It was just his night, or I guess afternoon.
yeah, because basically like what happened when Fox or Herder was guarding Steph, he was comfortable like handling the ball, driving and whatnot. Whenever Mitchell or Davis was on Steph just gave it the ball and just ran around screens.
Yep.
Right. So it made it tougher for Steph in the sense that he had to, run more, you know, he, but in terms of like his ability to score, it didn't really hamper him. He just had to score in different ways. So
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's all they can really do. I do agree with you. I think the biggest thing is figuring out what they want to do with Barnes. Either, I mean, at the end of the day, it's either whether or not you want to let Barnes go, depending on how much money he's looking for, and then just hope that Keegan, vastly improves his game during the offseason, or you roll the dice. Yeah, you pretty much either go either way, or depending on how much of a cut Barnes is willing to take, they might be able to work something out. But I guess we're gonna have to see what they choose to do. I think the biggest thing though is if they can somehow get rid of Holmes's contract, they might have some money to pay Barnes. So
yeah.
that's gonna be tough because I don't know who in the league wants to take on that contract, considering he doesn't really get playing time. So
Yeah. And then one note is that Sabonis will be up for an extension this summer because his contract ends next year. So not only do they have to be conscious of if they bring Barnes back and how much, they have to be aware that they're probably going to have to give up or give out I mean, it depends on how the negotiations go, but I would imagine that Sabonis would demand like close to a max contract, right? So
Yeah, whether he deserves that, that's gonna be kind of hard to say, to be honest with you. But
yeah, I
well, to be
mean,
fair, yeah, because I'm looking at Holmes because he's taken up like 12 million right now on the cap. After next season, he has a player option of 12 million. I highly doubt he's gonna say no to
yeah,
that, considering he's barely playing. So, they're gonna have to try to figure out how to maneuver him. Because I think they can probably try to figure something out with another team next year. Because assuming he
mhm.
opts in, they can try to trade the contract to another team as an expiring contract, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it'll be easier to move if when he becomes an expiring contract. But for this offseason specifically, like trying to get money for Barnes, that's pretty much the biggest thing. That's the only piece that they can realistically move, in my opinion,
yeah.
without hurting the actual team. Because I mean, you can argue like, oh, maybe they should get rid of like Damion Mitchell, but I still think Mitchell does provide value. But depending on who they would get back, we're gonna have to see.
Yeah, and Mitchell, you don't have to. He's up for an extension this summer, as in Mitchell, but you don't have to extend him because he'll be restricted the year afterwards. So there's no
Exactly.
urgency
So
to really extend
that's what
him.
I'm trying to say. Yeah, exactly. So there's that to think about as well. So I don't know. I think if they can try to keep Barnes, I think that'll be great for the team. I'm
Yeah,
assuming Barnes would be willing to stay. And then now that the team has at least had a year of success, I think they'll have a better chance of attracting veterans because they actually have a future.
yeah,
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 at least it looks like they actually have a sense of direction and a upward trajectory.
yeah. If you are someone who can shoot, then this is a team that you want to play for,
Yeah, and
right?
because otherwise, no one is trying to go to Sacramento
Yeah,
unless it's paid. So
yeah. I will say that the one little benefit that not only the Sacramento has when it comes to Holmes, just to kind of circle back to your point, is that with the new CBA, they have risen the salary floor that are required for teams to spend every year. And I forget how much it was. I believe it's 90% of the cap space is what they're required to spend now. Believe it's 90%. I could be wrong. It might be 85, but I believe it's 90. And it wasn't this year, but in 2022, I believe 11 or 12 teams. Um, I believe 11 or 12 teams were under the floor or right at the floor, if I remember correctly. So for teams that need to get to the floor, I do see that Holmes making just 12 million. I feel like you can you can do things with a $12 million contract. That's only for another 2 years. Like with the Ben Simmons contract, that's like 35, so that's very different. But for bad teams that are going to want to tank for next year, but also they need to meet that salary floor, I can see them taking on like Holmes' contract. So the one little benefit of the new CBA is it helps teams like SAC who have these, you know, role players who they don't really play much, who makes the lower end of 8 figures. It makes their contracts a little bit easier to trade because of this new CBA.
yeah, so that's a great point. You brought that up. I guess one downside is I just did some research on his contract as well, and there's apparently a 50% trade kicker as well. So I don't know. Which makes things a little bit more challenging. But again,
Okay, no, I took it back. Yeah, that makes it much more challenging because basically,
yeah, I was like, well, I mean, the Kings are gonna have to throw in some picks, like depending on how serious, like they're trying to move.
yeah, yeah, because just doing mental math, that's basically like with 24. So basically, they have whatever team that picks them up has to pay an extra like $3.6 million. So
Yeah, meaning they're gonna
that's a
have to
bit
give up
it's a
some
bit of a
picks or
bummer.
something.
Yeah.
But I mean, depending on how confident the Kings feel about their team, it might be worth it.